From how we get around,
I'm in control of when this vehicle takes off.
You start us off.
to how we grow our food.
I don't see it as a displacement of labor, it's more a change in function.
We take a closer look at the role of automation in Arizona.
More and more, we're all going to be working with machines and with artificial intelligences.
Hello and welcome to Arizona 360. I'm Lorraine Rivera. Thank you for joining us. This week we hone in on the economy and an emerging topic, the role of automation and its impact on jobs in the future. We took a look at how some companies and groups are taking a proactive approach to integrating the technology. To get us started, we got insight from U of A economist George Hammond, who's studying this very issue for the Eller College of Management. For his own research, Hammond looked to a study from Oxford University that developed an algorithm to determine which jobs stand a greater chance of being automated. Less susceptible occupations require more social interaction and creativity, while jobs more likely to be automated involve more routine functions. Any figures that can be attributed to this study and what the future looks like here in the state of Arizona?
Well, the industries that are likely to be most affected by automation are going to be leisure and hospitality, especially food preparation and serving, the trade, transportation, and utilities sector, and that's both the retail trade as well as transportation. That is something that's coming with these self-driving cars and trucks that can link up in order to improve fuel efficiency. Warehousing, we see a lot of this with Amazon and others. Those are highly automated environments. And also natural resources and mining. And that's a sector that's seen automation through the decades, and that is continuing to be something that will affect those industries.
Based on data from 2017, Hammond's study finds about 154,000 jobs in Tucson are at high risk of automation, or about 42% of the local workforce. Statewide, the risk increases to 45%, impacting 1.1 million jobs. Nationally, it climbs to 46% of the workforce, or about 63 million jobs. What's the timeline on all this?
One of the timeline is decades. And you also want to keep in mind that the study, and this is pointed out in the study, that's the employment disruption or the possible job losses. But what's harder to study and that we don't try to estimate in our work is the jobs that will be created. And they may be brand new industries and brand new occupations. Think back 30, 40 years ago, there were no webmasters, and now we have a whole lot of webmasters. So it will be something like that we don't even see coming just yet.
Are there vulnerabilities, though, with this?
Well, they're not perfect. They got better, but they're still not as good as a person, right? So that's also one thing to keep in mind as we think about the labor market risks from automation. The machines are getting better, but at least for the foreseeable future, there's still going to be a really important role for people. It's not that machines will replace us in the workforce, but more and more, we're all going to be working with machines and with artificial intelligences.
That type of working environment was on full display at our first stop in our effort to understand automation's impact in the state. Each year, semis haul more than $20 billion worth of goods back and forth across the southern border alone. In Arizona, the interstates are a prime testing ground for TuSimple, an international company developing driverless commercial trucks. Arizona rolled out the welcome mat for self-driving vehicles in August of 2015 when Governor Doug Ducey signed an executive order establishing the ground rules for testing on public roads. 2 years later, TuSimple made its move to Tucson. Today, it tests a fleet of nearly 20 semis equipped with LiDAR, radar, and cameras. At TuSimple's warehouse, we met Mo Fitzgerald, a semi-driver for more than 30 years. Her job still puts her behind the wheel as a test driver. We asked how she adapted to this new technology.
If trucks like this become autonomous, people like you no longer have a job?
I used to think that personally. When I applied here, I'm like, oh, I'll be a test driver, and this is going to replace everybody's job. It's the complete opposite. This is going to take the boring, monotonous driving out that most drivers don't want to do. They want to stay close to home. So the truck will get from point A to point B, and then that local driver will take over and take that truck, and so there'll still be jobs. Someone's going to have to deliver that load, and the technology is here now to make it more exciting for younger people that may have thought this is an old-time profession, that's just what old people do. You know, you're just a truck driver. You know, now it's new, it's exciting, it's technology, it's the future.
I imagine during the course of your career, there have probably been some close calls. Any worries about now that you are a test driver that something could happen that you couldn't react to as a human, and technology can't always predict what a human's going to do?
That's what they're trying to teach these trucks, that to be exactly like a human, but be a super trucker. That's what makes it so much safer, because it's never distracted.
When you say safe, are you talking about like being on the road for a really long stretch and you're human, you're tired?
Right. This truck will never get tired. It'll never want to pull over. This truck doesn't have to go to the bathroom. This truck doesn't need to do anything but drive straight down the road and end up where you wanted it to go. And it does it 15 times safer than a human could do it. It's amazing.
You bought into this, you really...
I have bought into it. You know, like I said, we were all skeptics, and they proved us wrong, and they proved to us that even at the point where we are now, where it's doing really well, we know a lot more things can be improved upon, but right now, I mean, this is the wave of the future for us.
Testing routes stretch between Nogales and Phoenix on I-19 and I-10, a popular corridor, according to Robert Brown, who oversees the company's government relations and public affairs in Arizona.
I-10 is the second busiest freight corridor in the whole country. From Florida to California, obviously through New Mexico and Texas is kind of where we're focused on. You'll see our trucks every day. You know, they still have the driver behind the wheel, so unless you're really paying attention and looking at the sensors, you probably won't notice them.
I can't think of the song at the moment, but that 18-wheeler can't stop on a dime.
No.
Let's say this guy's going 75 miles an hour, an object crosses the road. How quickly can it stop and avoid a catastrophe?
Well, one thing nice about our system, it actually has a reaction time of 0.02 seconds. For an attentive human driver is around 1.5. So it has a reaction time faster than a human driver. So that's also a plus. Plus, in addition to that, the way our cameras, it can see 360 degrees around the vehicle up to 1,000 meters in front of it at all times. And it does that 20 times per second. So it's constantly vigilant, understanding in its environment. So it can predict and understand possible dangerous threats like that better than a human can.
You mentioned these cameras. Are these cameras, these systems able to manage our unique weather patterns?
Yes. In Arizona, yes. we can handle the monsoons, the rainstorms, the haboobs, the high winds. We haven't solved snow yet, but the Arizona Southwest climate, the cameras have performed quite well.
There are probably people sitting at home watching this who are critical of it.
Yeah.
Does this somehow translate into job loss when it comes to the trucking industry?
No, absolutely no. From a further my being, I have my uncle, my aunt, my cousins, they're all truck drivers. My cousin's 22 years old, and he wants to be a trucker. He'll retire a trucker if he wants to be. So what we are trying to do is offset that acute driver shortage in that long haul segment right now. The American Trucking Association says we're short around 50,000 drivers today, and it's growing to over 200,000 in the next few years.
Do you have the workforce or the potential workforce to put in these trucks or behind the scenes doing this work here?
Oh yes. At Tucson, around the lunch table, I see new faces every day. We went from a handful of employees last year, we're up to over 100. And we're expanding rapidly, with construction and footprint. I can't say enough about Tucson and Arizona as a whole being a great community partner as well.
One of the partnerships TuSimple developed is with Pima Community College. The two collaborated on a new certification program launching in September that will train experienced truckers on the systems used by TuSimple. Missy Blair manages PCC's transportation program. She explained why the college is embracing autonomous tech.
The World Economic Forum recently posted something that 65% of the first graders now will be in jobs that don't exist right now. And so how do we get ahead of that as a community college? The college has been very hyper-focused on workforce. So this is something that we really want to be able to help the community with in getting upskilled because as we know, things are moving rapidly in technology, and so we have to be able to adapt to that.
TuSimple earlier today told me part of the reason they settled on Tucson is the workforce, the U of A, Pima Community College. There's got to be some pressure to be sure that you deliver.
There is a little bit of pressure, but we're ready. We're ready for it. You know, this is what we do. This is what we're comfortable with doing. We work with business and industry to find out what they need, so we're ready. The neat thing about this program is that this is the first iteration of it. As the technology gets better and as TuSimple forges their way through the industry, then we'll be able to also evolve with what they need. So this is just the first step of it. This is by no means where we stop with the program.
What is your pitch to prospective students?
You know, the industry can be a great industry. You know, get out there, get some experience, get paid to see the country, right? You can go out and drive, get paid to see the country. And then if this is something that you're interested in, come back, we'll get the certificate for them and get them upskilled with training that they need for this industry. And then they can go ahead and start playing with the robo-trucks.
TuSimple isn't the only company developing technology for self-driving semis. Competitors include Waymo, which shares a parent company with Google. In the Phoenix Metro, it tests self-driving trucks and has a depot in Chandler that houses a fleet of self-driving taxis. It opened up shop here in 2016 and plans to expand in Mesa later this year.
All right, closing the door.
We got a ride with Des Hatathli, Waymo's local policy and community manager in Arizona.
We have a couple options here. You can actually use the start ride button here on top, or you can hit the start ride button on the screen.
I'm in control of
You
when this
are in
vehicle
control.
takes
You
off.
start us off.
All right.
Other features include a button that tells the car to pull over. Another button puts a passenger in touch with support staff. Much like Uber and Lyft, Waymo rides get requested through an app called Waymo One. So far, service is only available to about 1,000 early riders, with most users ending up on a wait list. Feedback from early riders helps Waymo in its goal to eventually remove safety drivers from its vehicles.
But we have a couple of different sensors built on board on all of our vehicles. We have a vision system, which is the camera system located up in the dome. We also use a combination of LiDAR and radar sensors. They're located all the way around the vehicle, but it gives the car the ability to see 360 degrees around for about 3 football fields up in length.
I'm just checking because that seemed like maybe a risky turn, but we made it fine.
Sure.
So is there a person or, I mean, who's really assessing, let's say the technology's there, but there are also moves that we can't predict what other humans are going to do.
Yeah, as humans, we can't predict, but the AI and the machine learning capabilities on the vehicle does take that into consideration.
What about in those extreme circumstances where somebody does something that no one is expecting, but it just happens? How quickly can this vehicle respond by maybe stopping or swerving if it has to?
Well, it takes those types of things into account. And again, we are still in a testing phase right now. So it still is trying to learn and trying to react.
Testing of autonomous vehicles in Arizona came under national scrutiny in March of last year when a self-driving car belonging to Uber hit and killed a woman walking her bike across a street in Tempe. Federal investigators found Uber had disabled emergency braking while cars were in self-drive mode and instead relied on backup drivers to intervene. The backup driver in this accident did not react in time. Arizona suspended Uber's right to test self-driving cars in the state. Waymo has never experienced a situation as severe, but the company knows incidents like it can stoke skepticism that it must overcome regardless.
How do you sell the public when they're so critical of technology taking over things that we as humans do every single day?
Well, the technology is relatively new. I know there is a lot of apprehension about giving your control of the car away to a robot, but I think what we'd like to do is be able to start the conversation early. So before we come into a city, we like to be able to sit down with local leadership, also with law enforcement, and anybody who's a stakeholder we want to identify and then really educate. Take that time to educate them about the technology, but then also answer a lot of questions that might come out of that.
Community stakeholders include the East Valley Partnership, an organization focused on promoting economic development in the Phoenix Metro's eastern region. President Denny Barney explained the group's support for Waymo.
There will undoubtedly be taxi cab drivers and Uber and Lyft drivers who are sitting at home and saying, what about me? What do you say to them?
Well, that's a fair question. Ultimately, as you look at the role of the PHX East Valley Partnership, and that's the organization that I'm associated with, we're all about jobs. Certainly, we like high-paying jobs, jobs that focus on technology, advanced manufacturing, fintech, and other jobs that will be more insulated with the ups and downs of economic cycles. But every high-paying job brings with it a secondary and tertiary job. Our feeling is simply this. This is the evolution of transportation. It's happening right here in the East Valley. The way we move people, the way we move goods is going to change dramatically in our lifetimes.
How are you going about sort of balancing your relationship with Waymo and listening to the community?
Frankly, we haven't heard a tremendous amount of concern from the community, to be clear. There are those that are concerned, there are those that don't understand. But what we've seen is on the other hand, we've seen a community that has embraced technologies like Waymo. And they're saying, hey, we want to be the hotbed for innovation. We want to be ground zero for autonomous vehicle testing. Things are going to change, and we can either change appropriately with the world around us, or we can sit back and watch it move beyond us. And that's not what we're going to do. And I think this community has chosen generally at a very high level to embrace the Waymo type businesses because they believe in the value that they bring to our community.
Why do this versus getting in a car with a person and going where you need to go?
So I think the great thing about what we have here as a ride-hailing service is the fact that you're getting the same vehicle every time. And when we actually remove the safety driver out of the car, then you really would get that peace of mind of not necessarily getting in the car with a stranger, because you'll have the Waymo be your driver and be there to pick you up and take you where you want to go.
After our ride ended, we returned to Waymo's depot, and our conversation turned to the company's plans for growth in Arizona.
Let's look into the future about 5 years. How does this change? What's different?
Our goal is to continually add more vehicles to our fleet, also to increase our current service area from expanding from the East Valley further into the Phoenix metro area. We are also looking at opportunities that this technology might bring to existing transit services. For example, here in the Valley, we have a partnership with Valley Metro. So we are actually examining last mile options that a user might want to use and incorporate into their routes if they want to take or commute on the light rail. This technology is very transformative, but at the same time, we don't necessarily want to be very disruptive on existing transport services. We'd rather enable and kind of lend our technology and our services into the existing transport.
About how many people do you have employed here in the Phoenix area?
We have hundreds that we have here at this depot, and then potentially when we open our second location, we will be employing hundreds there as well. What's really exciting is that with the new technology and the new opportunities to create new jobs, indeed, there's probably a lot of jobs out there that we haven't thought of that we're going to be needing down the roadway. It's very exciting to think about how that's going to transform both our business, but also the local cities and economies.
The fleet that you have here, we see people who are driving them, but eventually the people won't be driving the vans anymore. So what becomes of them?
A majority of our drivers here, and I'm a good example of that as well. As a former driver, I've transitioned into a new role. And we also have other drivers on the team that have moved to technical operations or some of our other support teams. So with this new technology, there are a lot of opportunities that could be gained. We're still very much in the early process of rolling this technology out, but the opportunities are going to be there.
While some view automation as a way to drive innovation in growing municipalities, in Arizona's fields, the technology is also helping researchers break new ground. Arizona's agricultural roots date back more than 4,000 years when native tribes grew gardens. Today, the industry generates tens of billions of dollars every year. To see what role automation plays in modern-day farming, we're here at the University of Arizona Maricopa Agriculture Center. According to the USDA, farming operations in the state span over 26 million acres. 2,100 of them make up the Maricopa Agricultural Center, where we met Pedro Andrade Sanchez, an engineer with the U of A College of Agriculture and Life Sciences.
Now we have these systems that we can change very important parameters
He specializes in what's known as precision agriculture, which refers to farmers' increased use of technology to improve their efficiency. Machines tested here include a planter that can automatically adjust how deep it plants seeds based on data about a field's soil composition.
How did growers do this prior to these types of technologies?
All mechanical drives. It was very simple, right? You just set a gear, put the seed on the hopper, and go. It was all uniform. And that is what precision ag has changed. We no longer look into uniform management of a field. We are site-specific management.
What comes after this? What's next?
Well, it's hard to say. We know that there is a strong emphasis on autonomous systems. I tend to think that that's still going to take many years before we see a fully autonomous system doing all this. We are seeing these systems providing that additional efficiency, but still no need right now to not have an operator, right? Now, I will say this, that operator needs increasing amounts of training, and that's another area of our work in precision ag, that we can provide that support for the grower and his or her workforce in the use of these systems.
In automation, there's a lot of fear that machines are replacing people. You're saying you still need a qualified person to run these systems.
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't see it as a displacement of labor. It's more a change in function, right? Because then labor is trained to do other things where that skill, it's applied to a higher level.
Machines like this are more costly, but Andrade Sanchez considers it a worthwhile investment, saying growers reap long-term savings on seeds. Data used to program automated equipment is gathered by other machines like this mobile platform, outfitted with sensors, cameras, and navigation systems.
So we're collecting multispectral information, thermal data, so we take the temperature of the crops. That tells us about how the plant is performing in the heat, in the Arizona heat.
Engineer John Hune says the U of A was one of the first universities to utilize this type of platform and says it's now commonplace.
We're generating information using sensors to help the person who's managing the plants, who's managing the crops, to make better decisions, more informed decisions.
The platform can cover about 2 acres an hour and generate measurements on every plant in a field.
At the rate that we can cover the field with this machine and other machines like it, it's nearly impossible to measure with such high resolution and precision as opposed to a whole group of people trying to do those exact same measurements.
The benefits this type of data provides are both economical and environmental. When growers can narrow down problem areas in their fields, they can scale back on the amount of fertilizers or pesticides used to treat crops. Agriculture's increased use of automation and technology should come as no surprise to the industry. As Andrade Sanchez points out, it was predicted nearly 40 years ago by a professor at the University of California, Davis.
In 1981, he was making arguments based on the availability of microcomputers or computers for the general public.
So managing agriculture has shifted over the years.
Exactly.
Science, technology has been maybe one of the driving forces.
Exactly. That's exactly right, Lorraine. And again, back to the question of how things have changed. We, in the general sense, in our farming systems in Arizona, we are more mechanized. We're using more information-intensive tools. But that's gradually we're moving that, and we will continue to move gradually. And I happen to believe that that is actually a good thing. Consequences of a sudden change can be also negative. We want to be building for technology that really solves problems and helps our stakeholders in Arizona.
Across all industries, the use of new technologies raises questions about vulnerabilities to hacking, a scenario that isn't far-fetched, according to Larry Head, a professor of systems and industrial engineering at the U of A.
We're worried about people taking over automated systems, and so we try to put in safeguards, but it's going to happen. Things are going to happen. People are going to find their ways around. They're going to be clever.
The companies that we spent time with said that they go through great lengths to be sure this doesn't happen. Is that part of the business model for many of these companies now?
Yeah, it's part of the business model for everybody. In every industry where automation is becoming part of what they do, having cybersecurity and understanding the risks and trying to design the systems to protect against it is really important.
There are many things that us as consumers, average citizens, do to try to protect ourselves. Are there things we could do, let's say, if we end up in an autonomous vehicle one day?
Well, I'm not sure as a consumer and you're in the vehicle that at that time there's anything that you can do, but making sure that the company has a good cybersecurity record, making sure that there haven't been hacks and attacks and things on those vehicles would be smart. You know, don't just sign up with company X and jump in their vehicle. Do a little bit of due diligence and see what the history of the company is. Have they been hacked? Are they having issues? You know, if they're having issues with your information, your credit cards, I bet you they're going to have vulnerabilities on other fronts too. There's practices in industries that could be adopted for self-driving vehicles, and I think the companies that are really serious in this space are doing those things.
Who would be behind seeking out those vulnerabilities? I mean, who's really the mastermind that's trying to hack into these systems?
Well, I mean, there's the criminals. Right? There's people that are doing it because they are just challenged by it. Maybe they don't have anything better to do, but I put them in the criminal category because they really shouldn't be doing it. There's what we call white hat hackers that do it for a living. They might work for companies and, you know, maybe in the auto industry or trucking or other automation industry, and they're trying to find the vulnerabilities so that they can protect against them and get ahead of it. There's rogue nations, right? I mean, we worry about our electric grid being attacked. And it's very vulnerable, and so we're doing things to make sure that it's safe.
So as technology evolves, we are able to adapt. We've got to do it quickly.
Yeah, we will. And we have to get more due diligence, more ahead of the curve, if you will, of what's going on out there. We can design systems to have safeguards so that if somebody did take over the brain of a car, the safety system says, oh, sorry, you can't do that. You know, and maybe the safety system's isolated so it can't be attacked from outside, although everything can be attacked. So whether it's physical or cyber, you know, you have to be careful.
Okay, Dr. Head, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for now. Thanks for joining us. To get in touch, visit us on social media or send an email to arizona360@azpm.org and let us know what you think. We'll see you next week.